OneWrestling.com. This is Bill Apter. Welcome back to the Apter Chat, face-to-face today with a very interesting guest. And interesting because he is one of the editors for Pro Wrestling Illustrated. Dan Murphy, welcome to OneWrestling.com and the Apter Chat.
Thanks, Bill. I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much for taking the time to give me a call.
Oh, well, we've wanted to have you on here for quite a long time, but you're a popular guy. If you people are noticing some lighting or flickering problems here, we're having some technical difficulties on our hookup tonight, but we figured, what the heck, it's great subject matter anyway. So Dan Murphy is one of the people on the team at PWI, similar to the days when I was there, one of the team members who has put together the PWI 500, one of the most controversial lists ever in history. And how many years is this one, Dan?
I believe we started in 94, so 19 years?
Well, something like that. I was there at the very beginning, and I do want to clear something up. People say Apter invented the PWI 500. Apter wrote the PWI 500. I did neither. There is lore around the office that either Stu Sachs or Peter King created it. I believe it was Stu Sachs. Bob Smith was assigned the extreme task of putting it all together after all our meetings, and the burnout from the years he did it and some of the other people did it. These people were never the same again. But what we did at the very beginning, of course, is that we sat in a room for days, all the editors, and for days arguing who should be in the first spot, and of course the 500 spot, the two most important. But in between that, it seemed that somewhere around the top 100 was the one that the area that people really honed in on. And then it came down to people would talk about the top 25. And I remember many times that a lot of wrestlers would come to me very angry, very heated, saying, how could I be number 4 when so-and-so was number 3 when I'm so much better than him? So still today, that list means so much in pro wrestling. So I want to start off with some of the controversy here. And by the way, for you people that keep emailing me at my bapter@onewrestling.com saying, hey, Apter, how come I wasn't in the 500? I haven't worked for PWI in ages. So
send them on to me. I'm used to dealing with it. I've been dealing with it for about 15 years. So,
and where can they get a hold of you, Dan Murphy?
The main thing, I've got my private Gmail account, dtmirishdan@gmail.com. That's my personal Gmail account. It's my initials, the word Irish, and Dan @gmail.com.
All right. So let's start off with a controversy. We're not going to start off from, I was going to go over the top 10, but it's the number 11 person that has gotten a lot of people in an uproar.
It has.
And that is, yes, Daniel Bryan, number 11, rated behind and not taking anything away from him, Kevin Steen. So what was the, and again, taking nothing away from Kevin Steen, he's a fabulous performer, worker, wrestler, etc. But the momentum that Daniel Bryan has built up during this period of PWI was amazing. So what was the mentality of this year's group putting Daniel Bryan so low, not even to make the top 10?
Right. Yeah. Well, a lot of that is, I mean, the main thing that we look at with the PWI 500, and this is what everybody, and Bill, you obviously know this, but a lot of the fans kind of get wrapped up in this. There's two things to consider. Number one, we're looking at the previous 12 months in terms of an evaluation period. So it's what they do from, say, I believe it's June 30th to July 1st, or July 1st to June 30th, whatever the 12-month span is. So we look at what they've accomplished during that time period. So it's at 12 months. It's not the calendar year. It's really that 12-month span. The other thing we look at is their achievement within their respective promotion. Now, during that time period, Daniel Bryan was largely doing tag teams. He was doing a lot of tag team stuff with Kane, and he was doing great. I mean, it was Team Hell No was a very over a tag team, but they're in the middle of the card. They weren't at the top. And obviously, Daniel Bryan's got the ability, he's got the skill, he's got the pedigree to be somebody in the top 10, but he wasn't slotted in that area for the majority of that time
Well,
period.
let me stop you right there, Dan, and that's a
Yes.
very good explanation. Some of the comments that we got here at OneWrestling.com, because people do write us in
Oh,
thinking
yeah.
again that I'm still associated so closely with that. And no, I never owned PWI either. I was a member of a great team. I always say this of Stu Saxon, Craig Peterson, Peter King, and Brandy, and Joe
Bill, come on,
Kafua, and
let's let it go. Those people don't exist. They're all just different facets of
that
you.
is right. Yeah,
There's only Bill Apter.
What bothers me most about all that is when they say, "Hey, Bill, how's Eddie Elner and Dan Shockett?" Ha 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 ha. Look up Eddie Elner on
Yep.
Google. You'll find him. Dan Shockett unfortunately died at a very young age. We'll go into that another time. But here,
Yeah, but Bill. Yeah.
one of the comments was at number 5, Kazuyuka Okada.
Yes.
Did I pronounce his first name right?
Yep.
Kazuka Okada is number 5, and these people are saying that how could Daniel Bryan, even tag teams, etc., rate lower than he? And I tried to tell them that the PWI 500 is an international system, not just guys that you see here in the United States.
Yeah. Now, anyone who's seen the feud between Okada and Tanahashi in New Japan, those guys, I mean, please, like, take a moment after this interview is done. If you're watching this online, go to YouTube and look up Okada and Tanahashi and watch some of those matches, because right now that is the Flair versus Steamboat, the Steamboat versus Savage. That is the Daniels versus Styles.
And by the way, Tanahashi, of course, is number 3 in the PWI
Yeah.
500 this year.
They are having one of the greatest series of matches that you'll see, and probably the best one-on-one series of matches of this era, up there with Misawa and Kobashi and some of the other great rivalries. And right now, Okada's on top. He's really the top man in Japan today. In Japan with New Japan, All Japan, Noah, and Muto's group, it's more competitive than ever. Okada had a fantastic year, and he was put in the position of being the top number 1 man in his promotion. Whereas Bryan, as great as he is, he was a secondary or even tertiary character for most of the evaluation period.
And people also have to realize what they don't is that, sometimes people don't see this magazine until, let's say, Daniel Bryan, who's riding the high right now. This came out actually on the cusp of that time and the publishing
Exactly.
right. Yeah. So you have to understand for that. No argument, by the way, number 2, CM Punk. He's had a stellar year.
He did have a stellar year. He had a stellar 2012, fantastic 2012. He was number 1 in the PWI 500 last year.
I remember.
But this year he had a little bit of a setback. He dropped the title to The Rock, and then he lost at WrestleMania. He dropped down a little bit. He wasn't in that top spot and as invincible as
if he was still a Heyman guy, maybe that wouldn't have happened. But
possible, yes.
All right, currently. Let's talk about Bully Ray. You talk about a guy that was involved in tag teams. Bully Ray has started, he's an amazing single wrestler at this point of his career, number 4 in the PWI 500.
Yes. Just a guy who really kind of grew into his spot. I mean, about a decade ago, there was the possibility when the Dudleys first broke up in WWE, you had Bully Ray separated on the Raw brand, and Devon moved over to SmackDown. And at that time, Bubba had a short little kind of run against Triple H. And you really got to see a little glimpse of, wow, this guy can really deliver as a single. And now he's really kind of gone to that next level. He's obviously dropped weight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's gotten in the best shape of his career, and he's a master at being this versatile guy who can be a bully. He can be a really convincing heel. I mean, if you've ever gone face to face with Ray, he'll scare the pants off you.
He is like that. I mean, there are times I've known Bully or Bubba forever, since he started. actually. And there are times when he's the sweetest guy in the world, but there are times that I talk to him and you don't want to be in the same room.
Same with me. Absolutely.
He is a bully. He
And
definitely is.
he's good at it, and he allows that to come out. And with the situation he's had in TNA with aces and eights, and the role he's really kind of made that come to life, and he had a fantastic year.
Yeah. Dolph Ziggler checking in at number 9.
Yes. Dolph he was one of the guys who was the most critically lauded. A lot of fans loved his ring work. A lot of the internet fans in particular loved him. He did have his Money in the Bank win, and that allowed him to really kind of have that title shot whenever he wanted, but allow him to experiment a little bit. He lost a lot of those matches, but he still had that potential number one contendership in his hands. So he stayed at the top of the card. He was able to wrestle a little bit more of an experimental style. Even the losses didn't really hurt him. So he was still on the cusp, but never really top 5.
Yeah,
so,
there was just that little bit missing there.
Exactly.
A little bit.
Until he cashed it in, and unfortunately, after he did cash it in, he had a kind of unsuccessful run and kind of bumped down. But
a real surprise to me in a lot of ways, because when this guy first started, I didn't see stardom written all over him, no matter what family he came from, is Alberto Del Rio, number 8.
Yeah.
He really skyrocketed in the WWE during this period of time.
He's had a lot going for him. I mean, the great thing about Del Rio is he is from a tremendous wrestling family. In fact, over your shoulder there, I can see the Mill Massacre.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's the one he wore at the Garden.
There you go. Really?
Yeah, when he first went to the Garden, he gave it to me after the match.
That's incredible. That's very cool. Yeah, so Alberto's
got his formal mask is next to it, by the way.
Okay, gotcha.
He'd wear in a suit. Okay, go ahead.
I had dinner with Mill at the Cauliflower Alley Club a couple of years ago, and he had the one mask, and then somehow he was still at the table, but he changed the mask when nobody was looking, right. So he got pasta, and
yes.
on the mask.
Yes.
So,
let's move on. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
No. I was just saying. So yeah, Del Rio's got the pedigree. He's got the ground wrestling skills, and he's got the fundamentals where he can really kind of be a top babyface, a top heel. He's a very versatile guy.
Absolutely. Let's talk TNA again. Now let's go down to number 7, and great year again for Jeff Hardy.
Jeff Hardy, right at the top of the card. He's what a comeback he had from his kind of heyday, or his nadir, I guess, a couple of years back. He really bounced back. The company put its faith in him. He had his world title run, and he did a fantastic job. He remained their top star, their top draw, and he really had a fantastic year, delivering both in the ring and just being the kind of merchandise moving draw that TNA really needed as a babyface, and a great kind of offset to Bully Ray.
So I don't want to give the whole list away, even though it's been online, etc. I think people need to go out and buy this fantastic issue of PWI and see where everybody lies here in the list. But we do need to talk about number 500.
Number 500.
Number 500 is the one and only, and we're going to try and get him on one of our Apter Chats here, Mr. Lucifer Lords.
Yes.
And have you seen him wrestle?
I have. Yeah. In fact, what I made a point of doing is make sure that everybody who's in the 500 now, and this is a good thing to kind of clarify. I kind of took a real active role over the past few years of the PWI 500. I've probably looked at about 2,000 wrestlers each year, and I make sure that I watch at least 1 or 2 matches of everybody that we look at.
That's great. That's great.
So, I mean, in this era, it's a lot easier to do.
Sure. I mean, absolutely. When Bob Smith was writing the lists after we were having all the battles in the conference rooms, he had no real video to look at on the internet.
Right.
This was photographs and calling people, and to this day, I don't know how he did that.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, even if you watch the videos, somebody will say, well, that wasn't my best match, or this wasn't what I can't control what's out on YouTube. Those happen to be the top matches that show up, but these are the matches you ought to see. And we try to look at it and look and be as objective as possible and really try to take a cross section. Some years we look at the number 500 spot, and I'll admit, if I find a couple years ago, I found Shockwave the Robot, and Shockwave the Robot
Yes, yes.
he's a talented kid. He's a talented wrestler, regardless of what name you give him or what gimmick he has. He's a good wrestler. But he really took off with that Shockwave piece, and I really thought, as you said earlier, Bill, that the number one, the number 500, and that was a year where I
Those are
thought,
the 2 years the two numbers that everybody remembers.
right, I want to see number 500 as Shockwave the Robot. He's the perfect guy. Then some years like this year, it's not a matter of having that person slotted. It's a matter of slotting everybody in, the 100, 200, 300, 400, and so on. And when you get to 490, just who fits. And I didn't begin with the beginning in mind and the ending in mind. Lucifer Lords is a rookie, a very highly touted, talented wrestler. And he could go places.
Okay.
He might not. Maybe next year he'll be 5'10". Maybe next year he'll be 380. We'll see.
You never know, or maybe in the top 10.
You never know.
You never know. And by the way, I'm still defending the Cow Championship Office Wrestling title. So eventually, even if it's number 500, I got to get in there. I'm still doing that. Dan, again, I want to tell the fans that who always say, "Hey, is PWI still around?" Of course they are.
Absolutely.
Go to your favorite newsstand. Go to PWI_online.com.
Online. Yeah, PWI-online.
Well, it used to be an underscore, wasn't it?
I think at one point, yeah.
So it's PWI- don't spell out dash. PWI-online. And of course, I have very fond memories of my days back at PWI, and I'm glad that you and Stu Sachs and a lot of other people are still carrying on the great tradition of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, because there aren't many independent wrestling magazines around anymore, and I'm glad you guys are still there.
Well, and Bill, on behalf of myself personally, writing with the magazine and everybody who, like me, grew up reading your stuff, thank you for kind of creating it and leaving it to us. So
well, I was part of great teams. I was out. People got to know me because I was out in the field. I was on TV. Yep. I was at ringside with my camera. I was at all the title changes, and thank you. I really appreciate that.
All right, Bill, thank you.
But don't make that seem like I'm old, because I'm not.
No, clearly not.
And again, we did not give the entire top 10 or most of the PWI 500 because I want you to go to your newsstand or to PWI-online and order this issue. It's a special. You can't miss it. It's a collector's item.
Coming out very soon comes the PWI Female 50, too. So we have the top 500 men and the top 50 women. That'll be out very soon.
Fantastic. Bill Apter with Dan Murphy